Let's talk about this. Welcome back, friends, to the trailer. Well, that was a little unusual, isn't it? So today we're going to be covering my backcountry survival pack. I got a whole bunch of questions from the video that Jack and I put up last week about what is all that stuff on the front of your pack. I'm going to go over it into detail, what it is and what I keep in it, from pen flares to radio communications, all that sort of thing. That all fits in this pretty compact climb backpack. So let me unload everything here on the table. We'll go over the airbag inflation system, what that's for, how it works. It's a fascinating technology. And then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the pack. This was something, when I put all this together, and had to kind of start thinking about a survival kit for backcountry skiing, snowmobiling, snow biking. There's a lot of different considerations. You know, you're in a very cold environment, and you're probably going to look, or you need to have the equipment for someone to find you rather than self-rescue. You know, that's kind of the emphasis. If you get to that point, you know, things have gone so bad where you just can't get yourself out. So that's kind of what the purpose of this is. So starting with the front, all of this gear on the front is, you'll see the ripcord right here. This is the handle that you pull to deploy that airbag you saw at the beginning of the video. Now, that airbag has proven to be pretty effective in saving folks from that get caught up in avalanches. The Swiss did a study some years back, and they put a whole bunch of mannequins up on a slide, potential slide. They inflated airbags on half of them, and the other half they didn't. And they set off the avalanche with an explosion, and all of the air dummies with the airbags were all floated up to the top. And that's the idea. So if you get caught up in an avalanche, having that massive volume, that giant balloon over you, the idea is that's going to help you float and keep on the top and not get buried underneath. These are pretty ubiquitous in the backcountry now, but this particular technology is really cool because it utilizes a supercapacitor instead of the traditional compressed air, which is problematic for reasons we'll get into. So this here is the ripcord. Now, this is kind of a vest style, so if you are riding snow machines or motorsport, you do get some chest protection here. So if you're behind someone and they kick up a big ice ball or a chunk, it just covers your heart and lungs and just gives you a little bit of extra protection, kind of like a chest protector for our moto guys, right? Here we have the backcountry specific Bca radios. These are frequencies that can be used by anyone. Almost everyone that I see has a version of this. And the reason why this is so nice is you've got that remote microphone, so you can put the radio in the back, and this is all weather resistant. So this is all designed, you can get it wet, you can get it in the snow, and it still works. Plus, all of the controls for the radio are right here on your fingertips versus back in your pack where you have to dig for something. And the volume is really loud, so you can typically hear these things over top your engines. So you have your volume controls here, and then you have your channel selector right there. But that's basically what that is just a remote radio key. So let's look inside. I want to show you that super capacitor because it is fascinating. Now, I'm not an electronics guy, but I do remember being in electronics class in grade school, and we always had a lot of fun by, there was all sorts of capacitors around there, and we would charge them up and just leave them around in random places. You know, a capacitor holds a charge. It looks like a little battery, and it holds a lot of energy in it. And if you touch it, you get that energy out very quickly. And you could always hear someone shouting or yelling had picked up one of these capacitors. So there's two parts here. So we have the compressor, which you heard, with the supercapacitor in here, as well as the bag itself. So this is the main compartment. So if we open this guy up right here, this is just amazing technology. Here is the unit. You can see it right there. So we have this is the deflation valve. So once the bag is deployed, you can easily push the air back out of it and pack it back in and recharge the unit two different ways. So there's internal batteries in this. You can plug a USB cable in the bottom, and that will charge the capacitors, if memory serves, in 20 minutes. Now, if you don't have access to that, you can open up this door right here, and it receives two AA batteries. The AA batteries don't act to activate the compressor. They simply charge the capacitors, and I think this takes 40 minutes. So it's kind of nice. If you forget to charge your unit, then you could stick a couple AA batteries in there, and while you're going or getting ready, it will be charging those capacitors. So if you look in the back there, there's a very high volume fan that inflates that bag in about 3 seconds. So very, very cool. A lot of interesting thought. A nice switch here that makes it very clear when you're off. You could never be able to activate it accidentally. And what's cool about this is it's so easy to redeploy. If you feel like you're in danger and you pull it, you can repack it and just keep staying out the rest of the day. Where the old school ones that were compressed air, it was a one-time use. And then you had to go to like a paintball place or a fire station or find someone to refill that gas. So this is way, way better. Here's the compartment right here for the radio. This is the little Bca radio that we use. Nothing fancy, just a little 2-watt basic radio. I carry an extra one. Because I want to be able to have access to emergency frequencies, so I throw my Bofang in, and that just rides right in here as well. I always carry 2 radios. I also have these frequencies punched into the Bofang, so if this were to fail or run out of battery or what have you, I wouldn't be lost. I would still be able to communicate with my party, and that's really, really important. I've been up twice and come across guys that lost someone in their group because he didn't have a radio. Very, very foolish to go up without a radio. Right here you can see this is the bag itself, and I'll open this for you and show you. That's in its deflated mode right there. That's it. So you could just simply fold it back up, push the air out of it, redeploy it, and you are good to go. It just rips, kind of just tears right through that zipper. And very clever technology. Another thing that's kind of cool is on the side right here, you have a mesh grill. Right here, here we go. You won't be able to see it in this light. But this is actually see-through. And what was cool is Jack and I both have one of these packs. We are always double checking one another, making sure that we have all of our safety gear on, everything is activated. There's a green flashing light in there when the system is active, and it flashes red if there's a problem, right? So we check that. We can just look through there without taking anything off. I verify his, he verifies mine, and it's super awesome design. Just absolutely love it. A great, great system. All right, you ready to get into all the goodies that go inside? All right, let's do it. I'll bring you up closer here so we can see them all. When I started sourcing the contents for this bag, I thought, okay, what do I need this to be? And basically it came down to 2 things. I needed survival equipment and rescue equipment. Now, I don't keep any tools in here. I don't keep any food in here apart from a little bit of water. This is something that I would want to have on me at all times. All those other things that I would need for tools, replacement belts, parts, food, lunch, that sort of thing, that's kept on the tunnel bag on the bike. If you got an avalanche or you got separated, you can't count on being with your bike. You might not even be able to find it. So having any equipment that's survival equipment off your body, to me, seemed like a really bad idea. So that's why you're not going to see tools and things in there. Plus, I want to keep it light. It's on my back. So this is the stuff here. Most of it to get rescued. This is a mini flare kit, and man, these were hard to find. What it is it's basically you've got in there 4 flares and 2 bear poppers, which are just loud noise makers, inside of a nice waterproof case. This right here is the launcher. So it's kind of a little bolt action deal right there. So you pull this back, and that is like a firing pin, right? It's got a little point in there that activates these guys. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe these are flares, and these will shoot way up in the air. I think it's a bright red flare, a pocket flare, so you could be found. So these, you take this cap off, you screw it into the end there, and then there's a holder right here that this slides in here, I believe, or something like this. You can hold this, and when you're ready, you point it up at the sky, you pull this back, boom, and you got your bear popper, or you've got your signal flare. So that's very handy. I had to actually order this from Canada. It took months to get it. I couldn't source them in the U.S. I guess the nanny state won't allow us to have things that might save our lives. But that's a really nice peace of mind to have that. This here, I have a dedicated GPS tracker with satellite and all that on the bike. That's my primary. I always have a backup and a Garmin. And actually, I'm going to be swapping this out here for the new Garmin that has the ability to text over satellite, so I can stay in touch with Mrs. W. Actually, she's picking it up today when she's in town. So it's similar to this, but it has that capability that no matter where you're at, without cellular connection, you'll be able to send messages back and forth, and that's really, really important in an emergency situation like that. Now, the downside with these when you do that is that it requires a subscription, but you can start and stop it. But I've already, and just since we've been here, we've had 2 families that have lost kids up on the mountain that had to go up and be rescued. And one of them, I believe, survived just recently because he had the device that I'm replacing with this. So that's one way to do it. The really good one, of course, I've done videos on this, is the ACR if you want to go professional grade. The ACR is way more powerful than the Garmin's, and it is supported by governments all over the world. This is what you're going to have when you do a SOS in a marine application. It has a big antenna, way, way more powerful. The downside with these is it's one-way communication. So when I hit that button right there to activate it and put that antenna up, that's going to notify through government agencies, search and rescue, that I need I need help. The downside is you don't know when they're coming or if they're coming, right? So having both of these to me just made sense. In a personal story, I have a friend who years ago he actually had both. He had an ACR and he had a Spot. And he crashed on his dirt bike in remote Utah, broke his back, pushed both of them, and got rescued because of the ACR. And the other one, there was never, apparently there was, I don't know what happened. So I'm doubling those up. I always carry that right there. Plus, it's also a backup GPS in case the one on my bike failed. Actually, I carry triple redundant GPSs because you can get lost out there. And man, you can get a long, long ways out. This is an Avalanche Beacon. You're probably familiar with these. Jack and I both carry one of these. This is not carried in my pack. It's carried on my person in this harness, right, kind of as an appendix carry, just underneath my exterior shell. And these are all on the same frequency. There are lots of different manufacturers. This one's Jack's, this one's mine, but they do 2 things. They send, meaning they transmit, and they receive, right? This is how you find someone buried in the snow. This is transmitting, this is receiving. It gives you arrow, direction, distance, and with a little practice, you can be very effective. It's very effective in finding people. They have pretty bulletproof switches that you can't mistake. You can see there's the search mode right there, which puts it in a much higher power mode. Battery drain is much quicker in search than it is in send. Or when you're going, whatever the rule is when you put it on your body, you have it in send, and when you take your clothes off, you turn it off. You always want this on. We do very thorough checks with these at the trailhead before we start, and I'm starting to see on some of the trails we've been riding on, there's actually a sensor that as you ride by, it gives you, it picks up that signal. So you either get a red X or a round circle, just to tell you really quickly that indeed your beacon is activated and working properly. Right there, so that's the beacons, but those are not worn in the pack. This is my survival kit right here that I've put together. For this specific pack, and this has a little bit of both survival stuff and rescue things, and this is how it lays out. So one thing I'd want to be able to do is start a fire. Right, it's usually that's something it's pretty easy to do if you're able. So there is everything in there to do that. So from left to right here, so these are air canisters for the real loud air horns. Right, you've seen these before. Now my thought on this is, in a snowstorm or a blackout, these can be heard for a long time. Or if we just get separated and communications fail and our trackers all fail, you'll be able to stop or come up with a code, say, okay, if we get separated on the hour, I'm going to blow this. And then you can hear that sound and you can go to it. So with an extra canister. A Leatherman, some cordage, a basic survival knife, a Bic lighter, British lifeboat matches, the real good ones in there with the striker in there, a little bit of duct tape wrapped around it, some basic stuff. This is a little bivvy a guy could get into. I've actually used these before, and they are a whole lot better than nothing. Just get a good one. If someone was injured, you could keep them warm in there. You could deal with shock. I like these little hand warmers. I don't know that I've ever really used one, but I've had guys that don't have good equipment or are cold hands, and I've given these to guys, usually kids, a lot of kids, but they're light and they're handy and they work. A fire starter, a fire steel, a starter, a little dedicated flashlight, just my little 9-volt guys there. I like these because they run for a long time, and they're not such a good flashlight that you tend to steal them out of your emergency kits. So they tend to stay in there. This is not my primary light, of course. And then in here, I have a compass and signaling mirror, some additional fire starters, a Fox 40 whistle. I also have a secondary whistle on the back of my pack, and a external battery for my phone to keep that charged. Now that's really important because I use my phone I'm going to show you guys an app that'll change your life if you haven't seen it. It is absolutely an essential app to have. Let me grab my phone here and I'll share that with you. So the app is a mapping app, and it is called Gaia. And I've been using it now on wildland fires and motorcycle rides for a long time now. And what's different than a lot of the other apps is it doesn't require a cellular signal. So if you don't have any cell connection or any Wi-Fi, you have a map that you can use. You can go online, you can download a map of your area. There is really good base maps on it already, but this is absolutely an essential item. Even if I'm really having difficulties navigating, or sometimes if we're coming back when it's dark, I find that the little GPSs like the Garmin's are very difficult to use. You know, the interfaces are garbage compared to the iPhones and the Androids and such, and the Gaia is really excellent. I would just get it. Pay for it, buy it. If you're an outdoors person, you will absolutely love it. Doesn't matter if you're an overland guy, backcountry skier, hiker, whatever you do. Hunting, it's excellent. You can do overlays, you can get aspects, you can look at avalanche danger. It is absolutely excellent. Just get the Gaia app, and it functions independently. So when I start, now I'm leaving tracks on my GPS. I start this, I waypoint the truck. I start a waypoint on my Garmin at the truck. I leave tracks on this. And then the third option is on the bike itself. So I've got 3 GPSs going because I have a terrible sense of direction. I'll just be honest about it. And I have a fear of getting lost, and I'm just not good at it. It was just not something I was gifted with. So I use technology to compensate for my shortcomings. So that is the basic, just a really small survival kit. And that fits perfectly in the Climb tool bag. This is, when a manufacturer hits on something that's just right, this is the perfect bag for this sort of thing. I have an identical one that I keep my tools in for motorcycles as well. But great size, excellent, excellent, excellent. Just love it. All right. Dedicated headlamp. I don't compromise when it comes to this. This is the Black Diamond. I think it's the Icon. It is their biggest headlamp, and it's one that I've used on wildland fires for, goodness, a decade or so. And what I like about it is it's got a remote battery pack that takes 4 AA's. No AAA nonsense. And this is a great light. Very bright, very good interface. You could actually even drive with it if you have to. It's very, very bright. The newer ones have a pretty high lumen counts, and they run forever. The Black Diamond Icon, they're expensive, but they are very good. I really like it. And you can lock it out so it doesn't activate, but that's my go-to light for sure. Never leave home without an Icon. All right, medical supplies. I guess that would be a third category that I keep in the pack. This is a SAM Splint. These are what you use. When I was a medic with the fire department and did wilderness EMT and all of that, we use these all the time for splints for broken bones. It seemed to me that a broken bone was highly likely with motorsport, right? Arm or leg or something. And to be able to immobilize that with this is very nice. It's just nothing more than a thin piece of aluminum. You can see some applications right there that have a very soft foam to them. that can be used to repair repair things like we did when we broke the case on the bike, broken bones. But they're very light. They don't take up much space. Very good thing to have. Very handy. I'm not carrying anything in here for boo-boos or bumps or scratches or things like that. If it gets to that, I'm just going to come home. This is just purely life safety, right? And then a basic IFAK right there, basic IFAK there. So I'm going to have a Israeli bandage. I'm going to have a North American Rescue tourniquet. I'm going to have a Benchmade rescue tool for cutting clothing, cutting through boots, cutting through that sort of thing. It's a safe way to cut clothing that you don't have to worry about hurting someone. And then I have a combat gauze in there. So that's it. I mean, I just don't have room. I got to pack all the stuff on my back, and that's what I choose to go with. So this is just to deal with traumas and stuff. Then I have some medical tape in there too that I can, if I need to deal with doing a splint. But I like to keep the medical kits in a red bag. I mean, of course, you know what's in your kit, but if someone's rifling through there or they need to help you, it may not be clear. You know, it's a lot of confusion. So that just keeps it simple. Keeps it simple and squared away. My poor space blanket, man, it just goes from pack to pack to pack. But I want a space blanket. If I'm going to spend the night out in a tree well or a snow cave, that little bivvy is fine, but I want this. We can use it for a litter. We can use it for to stay warm. And the original space blanket, what are they, 4x6 size, are just so versatile. Just get one. You should have one of these in your truck. Throw it in there. You'll use it. No question about it. I carry a pretty good amount of water in my tunnel bag on the bike, but I had to just keep an extra one in here, just a small one. Again, it all comes down to weight. And the last two items are rescue items as well. Some of you may be familiar with these. Some of you may not. This is a probe, an Avalanche probe. So it's, you just put it together. It's very long. It's got your measurements on there. Unfortunately, in the metric system. But if you, when you go through Avalanche training, they'll teach you how to use these. You'll use this in combination with your beacon, and once you get close, you'll put this together, and then you'll start either concentric circles or various different search patterns until you're going down into the snow to try to find someone who may be buried. Hopefully, this will never see the light of day. So these three things are oftentimes sold in sets, and then a very good, high-quality Avalanche Shovel. So this is, I've used this many times, Jack and I have, to dig our bike. Jack and I actually went over a ridge and dumped both of our bikes headfirst into a deep creek, and there they sat. We were out there for an hour or so digging those bikes out. But this is, of course, goes with, once you use the probe to find your buddy, hopefully, you'll use the shovel to dig them out. And these are very strong in case you need to deal with ice or so. And they're 2-stage. Right? So you got a good handle on there. This is a good thing to have in your truck, too. If you live in a snowy environment, they pack really small, and it'd be a good thing to dig out of a snowbank or such. And they're very tough. They're all aluminum, very high quality, nice shovels. So that kind of is the shovel. I'm going to show you one more thing with the pack that you might want to consider if you're doing this. And most of your new packs, and it's universally understood that you have a dedicated area for these particular items right here, right? So, and if you look at a backcountry pack, most manufacturers are putting red pull tabs on here that you can access with gloves, great big ones. And that tells you, that spot right there, that's the spot where the emergency equipment is. And you don't put your lunch, and you don't put other things in there. And you can see they're dedicated. So you put your Avalanche probes in there, your shovel, handle, and your shovel. They're designed for that. And that's where they stay. They just don't go anywhere. Well, friends, I guess that's about all the time we have. I was just showing you the volume of this. It's pretty big balloon, but and an interesting technology. I mean, it's kind of funny because it's it's so high tech with a supercapacitor and that compressor to be able to pump this type of volume in such a short, 3 seconds. But strapping a big balloon to your backpack to survive an avalanche, the first time I thought it, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. It was funny, but it's no joke. You can go on YouTube and watch all sorts of guys that have been saved because of them. And one last note. No one knows for sure, but it's been talked about and speculated that the two different types of inflation methods, the CO2 gas, which is the traditional one, versus the supercapacitor with the compressor, that guys are starting to say that they think that the supercapacitor is a better way to go because people are being found that are wearing these packs with the compressed air that are buried in the avalanches that have died, and they haven't deployed them. Now, no one knows the story, right? Because a dead man tells no tale. But it's being speculated that the inconvenience of having it refilled and then ending your trip by not having an avalanche pack anymore, people are reluctant to pull them. And that could be. So the advantage of this is that you may not be sure, but you want to pull it just to be safe. There's no reason why a guy wouldn't do that because you're not ending your day. You're not having to go back because you no longer have, your pack. You could right there in the field, let the air out of it, fold it back in its pack, and continue on and continue going. And you can do that multiple times, right? I'd have to say if you're doing it multiple times in a day, you're probably in the wrong part of the country. But it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. The other thing is that you could travel with these on an airplane, where the other ones I think you can't. So. Yeah, so it was interesting. I was in here rehabbing the trailer this morning before I got back to work on the sawmill, which I still haven't got running yet. I've got hours into that thing. We're going to be going up tomorrow up on Mount Fuji, and so I'm just rehabbing the trailer and making sure everything's set up and ready to go in the morning. But I thought you might find that gear interesting. It is to me. A lot of this is new technology that I wasn't aware of, and kind of fun to share, and just to know that it's out there. It's just fascinating what guys come up with. So. Thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.